introduced today, probably because I've known Paul for a long, long time, and the stories that I could tell would probably reciprocate with stories that I would not want to be told back to you all. I do remember the good old days when I worked at Kinzie. How many of you worked at Kinzie Industries while you were just two of us? There's a lot of us who went to college and made it through college because of Wayne and Beverly's good graces and allowing us to work there. And I remember one day, of particular note, Wayne had gone, so Paul was in charge of me, Mark, and Tim, which those are the brothers. And I think that aged him in a short period of time because we were not the good employees we should have been for Paul. So I need to publicly apologize for that, but I'm much better now. I'm much more disciplined. I'm not sure about Tim and Mark, but the Kinzie family as a whole has been incredible for this community. I got the pleasure of being kind of an adopted son while I was in college, and I stayed in touch with that family throughout my entire military career. Actually got the opportunity to help them get some aircraft parts from Fort Rucker, Alabama when I was actually stationed down there. So I've always stayed in contact with them. When I was in college, I got a chance to go to Disney World with them, which is, if you ever get the chance to go to Disney World with the Kinzie family, it's better than any other opportunity to go to Disney World. Just a great family, been a huge part of this community. There's probably 200 or 300 students that have worked for the Kinzie Industries over the years, and it's a pleasure to see Tim continue to do the aviation stuff. If you want somebody passionate about aviation, get did I just say Tim? I'm sorry. Get Paul started. Paul is very passionate, very talented in the aviation, very resourceful, has tons of knowledge, and it's a pleasure that we have him back in here in this community. Is your son, is he flying yet?
Not yet.
Okay. I'm sure that will happen. It's a huge pleasure and an honor to introduce Paul Kinzie, and he's going to talk about our flying coming up. Please give him a applause.
Wow, it's a little hard to live up to expectations after something like that. I think there's been an advertisement in the newspaper, and you may have heard some rumors around, seen some things from the board meetings out at the airport, but we're June 19th through the 23rd. We are having the Wings Over the Prairie event out here at the airport, and this is going to feature the 42nd Air Race Classic, the Texas T-Card Air Show, Young Eagles rides for kids between the ages of 8 and 17, overnight airplane camping, this is a new aspect, movies under the stars, World War II aircraft rides, Kids Zone, plane plastic tours, and the TV personality Kevin Lacey from Airplane Repo, if you happen to catch that on the Discovery Channel, and the dedication of the new turf runway, vendor exhibits, and an airport social meal sponsored by Plain Plastics and the Kinzies. Now, how this came about or got established was that Plain Plastics, Mark Seaver and Dale Loxton came down and visited me one day down at the shop at the North End and said, hey, you guys started this plastics thing here, and this is, by our count, 35 years of plastics manufacturer in Northwest Oklahoma, and we'd like to celebrate and have an open house, invite some planes in, and have a big day of it. Would you like to do that with us? Said, sure. Well, from that, it's just grown. It's some of it in spite of us trying to hold it back. But part of what the timing was for scheduling this is at the same time they were discussing having this event, the air race people contacted the airport manager, who then brought it to the board, said, we're inquiring if we would like to be a stop for the air race. And we said, sure. And that sparked the June 19th, I believe, is the first day of us holding this in June. And weather-wise, it's hard to figure out a good time to hold such an event in Alva. You see what April's been like. May can be the same way. June's not quite as hot as July or August. You get into September, you have the car show and football events and school events starting out. So we thought June would be a good opportunity to give this a shot. So let's talk a little bit about the Air Race Classic that's coming to town. There's going to be 56 teams, or 56 plus planes. There's only about another 4 or 5 that tag along with it. There's 121 women from 35 states and 5 foreign countries, which includes Australia, Canada, Colombia, Kenya, and New Zealand. So the exposure is tremendous for the airport. They're going to take off at 8 a.m. Tuesday morning in Sweetwater, Texas. And the reason for that particular location is this is the 75th anniversary for the WACS. And there's another acronym I can't remember. But essentially it's the Women's Air Corps aspect during World War II. If you go back into history, all the men were essentially overseas fighting. The women were here behind. They were trained in order to ferry aircraft to the front, to deliver them around the U.S. and ship them around as needed. And so the initial training base for that was Sweetwater, Texas. And that's why they're starting there. So in particular, they have requested, if you know of anybody who is associated with that aspect of the service, they would really like to have them in attendance at this stop, at these various 8 stops that they have, so that they can honor them. We do happen to have an airplane on the field that Bruce Papin owns, which is a Taylorcraft L2, which was flown by the WACS and used as a training aircraft on a base nearby. Among the racers, there is a celebrity. It is the U.S. National Aerobatics Champion. Her name is Debbie Wren Harvey. Now this particular race dates back to the 1929 Women's Air Derby, which included Amelia Earhart. So it has, very grand beginnings. There's 8 stops in this race. The teams will actually execute high-speed flybys over a timing line as they race against the clock. The faster planes may finish this course in 2 days, and the slower ones up to 4 days. They actually have 4 days. And it's 2,656 miles through 15 states, from Sweetwater up to Maine. And they will have a total of 8 stops, 8 timing places that they go. And when they start in Sweetwater, they will take off beginning at 8 o'clock, and one airplane will leave the ground every 30 seconds till they're all up. And then of course they will separate in the air based on the type of aircraft they are and the speed. And so we actually anticipate here not seeing the first aircraft till about approximately 9:30. It's roughly 300 air miles between here and Sweetwater. There is not an airplane, we have the list of aircraft, there's not one aircraft on there that can do 300 mile an hour unless they get a whale of a jet stream behind them. But so we're giving them an hour and a half, and then we expect it to be like Chicago O'Hare around here for about 2 hours. Because if you're trying to land 56 planes, even if you're doing one every other minute, that's still that's a pretty good share of 2 hours going on right there. Each aircraft actually receives a unique handicap. Teams are racing against their own best time, not against one another. And this creates for a level playing field so slower planes can compete against the faster ones. And the teams actually strategize to play the elements, holding out for better weather or seeking more favorable winds to beat their handicap by the greatest margin. And in this, there are actually 18 universities or colleges participating in this race. And some of those include Auburn, California Aeronautical University, Delaware State, École Nationale out of Quebec, Indiana State University, Jacksonville University, Kent State, Lewis University, Liberty, Middle Tennessee State, Purdue, Southern Illinois, Ohio State University, University of Butte, University of North Dakota, and Western Michigan. And some of these actually have more than one team entered. I think Ohio State has 2. Now the ALVA, we've been meeting since last fall, preparing for this and for the fly-in that's associated with it at the end of the week. And I'd like to say that the city, the airport, the ALVA Economic Director, the Woods County Industrial Authority Director, Plain Plastics, and Kinzie are all efforting to put the best foot forward. The exposure to our community from this, as I told you, 121 people from 35 states and 5 foreign countries, the exposure is tremendous. As Lynn has written about, and as you've probably heard from other people at the airport, it is no small tale to let you know that a lot of times the only impression people get of this community is what their experience at that airport. It's essential that the people they meet, the experience that they have there is positive if you wish to get them back or to entice them back to stay or to even consider us for future economic possibilities. At some point in the past, somebody from this race organization has been into our airport and has been treated so, and thus the inquiry came forth. Otherwise, we probably never would have even been noticed with among the other 6,000 airports in the U.S. be considered a stop for this. So we want to make sure that this comes off well. There'll be tents, bleachers, food trucks, everything out there for people who want to come out and watch these planes come in. We are actually working, developing our own teams locally to handle this. because we're expecting to have to refuel aircraft. They're expecting the vast majority of them to land because their next stop is way up into Nebraska. And if you know June, the weather between here and Nebraska could change in a second. It could be bad weather, it could be a front, it could be a tornado, you know, who knows what's going on. So being the first stop, we've done some calculations. You know, they want their speed, they want their efficiency. We are anticipating none of them carrying a full load of fuel. We actually anticipate, and they're not penalized for being on the ground. Once they've done their timing run, they can come in, land, stay here however long they want, and then they can leave wherever they want. The second stop's just in Nebraska, and that's where they'll spend the night. So what we're trying to plan on is how we handle the aircraft on the ground, how do we get them on the ground, how do we park them, how do we fuel them, and then how do we get them back off. It's going to be a ballet to get all this coordinated. And so we're, Tyson, who's our interim airport manager, is working to develop his teams for refueling the aircraft. We're developing teams for parking the aircraft. We're actually going to have airplane greeters as soon as the planes are parked to go out and be able to hand them a sack with the welcome to Alva. Plain Plastics is having a coin made commemorating the event in their stop here that they're given to each of the people landing. Alex at the city is developing a brochure talking about area attractions, because your weight's a concern, so you can't hand them a bag, you know, full of stuff that they got to figure out where to stuff in there. So we're trying to condense things down so that they have a good snapshot of what's here. And there'll be porta potties out there in addition to the restroom facilities in the terminal. The chamber is working to provide finger food snacks for the pilots should they be hungry, because we're not sure how long they're going to have to, if they even have breakfast before they left. But the other thing that you don't think about that's a major aspect of this is, what if there is bad weather? What if they are grounded here overnight? All of a sudden we have 121 people, 55 planes that we got to take care of. And so we are working to make sure that we have shower facilities available, indoor camping facilities available, access to Walmart, to hotels, things of that nature, should they be overnight. And as any pilot will tell you, some of that can't be determined until that day. Even the best forecasts don't always come true to what the weathermen say. The 99s have been asked to attend, and they're actually headquartered in Oklahoma City, and that's a national women's organization. It goes back to the 20s. It's the women's organization promoting women in aviation. And it's the who's who list is illustrious as well. I mean, you know, any female that you can think of that has made their name in aviation is a member of the 99. And they have sent out their notices to the area chapters to come in. We're borrowing a tent from the chamber and Plain Plastics to set up to be able to host them as well. Continuing on that, so that's all on Tuesday. So that's Tuesday morning, and so I would encourage you to come out. We have the opportunity to get this back at some point. Pratt's hosted it twice. I visited with the Pratt airport manager. He says, man, if you do it right, they will want to come back. And that's what we want. Now their route changes each year, but if we make it memorable for them, they will come back and want to participate here again. So continuing on to Thursday that week, we will actually do Young Eagle flights that day. We have an EAA group coming in who's approved to do this type of an activity. And children in the ages of 8 to 17 can get a free airplane ride, which is their first, a lot of times it's their first experience in an airplane. And these people know that, and they're not going to take them up when it's rough. They're not going to do anything out of the ordinary, general banks and turns, because they want this experience to be positive. The last time we did this in Alva, we had over 30 kids show up. And the majority of them were from out of town, because there were actually, the timing wasn't right, and there was actually a huge activity at the rec park that took a lot of the Alva kids for sports. And so we're hoping that this time, in addition to the out of town from Winoka, Freedom, Cherokee, Kiowa coming in and participating in this, that we can have a lot of the local kids have the opportunity to participate in this as well. The fly-in part of this actually begins Friday at 12 noon. And one of the new things that we're doing this time is we're advertising for airplane camping. And there on the far north side of the airport, on the north side of my building and Baker's building, is that big, huge grass area. And that's where we're going to park the planes, allow them to come in and park in overnight. And right now, April, who's from Plain Plastics, who's actually kind of helping run this setup, has 30 verbal commitments from people who want to come in and camp that night. One group in particular is Ohio State University. They want to bring the rest of their airplanes and the rest of their people down from Ohio State to be here on Tuesday to cheer on their race teams from the first stop, and then they'll stay the week and participate in the flying activities and go back home. So we actually have several clubs. The Cessna 195 Club, these are different airplanes. The Cardinal Club, the 140 Club, they've all been contacted. And like the Cardinal guys, there's some that's from as far away as Virginia that plan on coming in and staying the night as well. So it makes well for them if they can come. We make it a 2-day event. Again, weather plays a big part in this. So Friday at noon, the campground opens. Plain Plastics will have tours that you can participate in. The industrial building on the north side of Plain Plastics will be set up for vendors. And they're actually having aircraft vendors come in and set up for like Rosen Fasteners out of Oregon will be here. 2 or 3 groups out of Texas will be into here. I think Air Parts and Wilco out of Wichita will be in to set up. So for the pilots and the planes that fly in, there'll be an opportunity for them to meet some of these vendors that may be able to provide service to them, as well as Plain Plastics or other individuals on the field. There'll actually be what I would call a community meal or a social event that night. That begins at 6 o'clock. That'll be at the north end of the airport on the west side of the blue building that's out there. And this is being sponsored by Kinzie's and Plain Plastics, and this is for the community to come out and meet with the pilots that have flown in and mingle with the airport crowd and have a social. The food will be sponsored by us. It's a free event. And then at 6:30, Texas T-Carts will perform an air show that evening. And they use a clipped-wing modified Taylorcraft airplane, and they come highly recommended. And some of these contacts, just to let you know, are coming in because of Plain Plastics. When I owned the business in particular, we dealt with a lot of people and a lot of different facets of things from different walks of life. And Plain Plastics, as they have owned it and expanded and grown upon it, they maintain those relationships, and they have the ability to pull in these types of groups from their business relationships and social relationships, just like they have spent the last week at Sun and Fun in Florida, which is the largest aviation event outside of Oshkosh in Wisconsin. And a lot of these people were there, and they've been firming up a lot of these commitments of people wanting to come in. So we have an air show that evening, and then when the sun goes down, we're going to have movies under the stars. I have a huge white door on the west side of the building, and we'll be showing movies on that side. And I have the brats lined up to provide a sound system out there so everybody can hear. And we'll have snow cones and popcorn, and there'll be food trucks for additional desserts. Saturday morning, things will kick off early at 7 because aircraft starts flying in. There will be a mid-morning show by the Texas T-Carts operation, and all day long there will be World War II aircraft rides. We have airplanes coming in from the, not Confederate, it used to be the Confederate Air Force. What's it called now? It's a different name. They had to change it to be politically correct, but it's the Confederate Air Force that's coming in, and they're bringing a UC-78 and a PT-23 for rides. And I did bring some things along I can show you. And so here. So these are the planes that'll be available for rides during the day. I'll pass these around. So if you want an open cockpit experience, a single-seater ride, you can, and that's $150 per ride. Or you can fly in the twin engine, which is a World War II, affectionately known as the bamboo bomber, because it's all made of wood. So if you know World War II, metals were short supply, so Cessna designed and built it out of wood. It can hold 3 people, and 3 people can ride for a total of $250 if you want a closed airplane experience. And these are well-trained pilots, knowing what they're doing, and you should have an excellent ride in it, and those are good rates. The last time we brought in the PT-23 like that, the guy was busy all day long. He was very skeptical about coming in. He came out of Oklahoma City. He thought maybe 1 or 2 rides, and he never stopped. He was impressed. The Texas T-Carts, I do have pictures. So here's a picture of their airplane. It's a modified 1947 aircraft. And he has a unique show where he does some things that's only unique to him. But it's about a 30 to 45 minute show. And you'll have the opportunity to, we wanted what we call a grassroots type of an event, where we can get a variety of planes to fly in, have be able to do tours of Plain Plastic, see the museums on the airport, be able to socialize with one another, be able to participate or interact with vendors, and be able to attract the townspeople out to see the airport facilities, to see the various aircraft in the area, in the region, and to have an air show, a little bit of an air show, but not an air show all day long where all you do is sit and watch. And I have the opportunity to walk around, visit, or interact with people. And right now we have what we feel is a nice selection of aircraft coming in to display. And then we may have various groups like the Cardinal Club may come in. Some of the 195 guys may do some formation flights over the airport, things like that, which is kind of neat to watch, just to watch some of these old things take off, fly, hear the sounds. And participate. If you're lucky, they may just give you a free ride if you want. And I forgot to show you this earlier. So this is the route for the air race. And you can see where it starts in Sweetwater, where the first stop, and how it ends up in Maine. Pass that around, and this is a list of all the aircraft that's registered for the race. The cutoff was April 1st. I get a kick out of some of the names that the teams have named themselves, because you have everything from the Flying Flashes to the Kiwi Express to the Misplaced Mooney Girls, Flying Phillies, Finger Lakes Flash, let's see, Ragin' Racing Redheads. So you can,
sounds dangerous.
they're all single engine, normal aspirated engines. There's no turbines in there, and there's no twin engines. See, then that afternoon at 1 o'clock, we're going to have a dedication for the turf runway. We had one years ago, and then over the course of building the new longer runway, we lost it. And last year, the airport took it upon itself to establish it, put it back in. Last week, it got sprigged. We just need rain. But we have a dedication for it, and it serves two purposes. One is that what we call conventional gear aircraft, or tail draggers as they're known, prefer turf. Everything happens at half speed on grass as opposed to asphalt. The other one is safety. The winds like we've had, when you have a 40 or 50 mile an hour wind out of the west or the east, these little airplanes can't really land on the north-south runway. Your maximum crosswind component is what, 17, 18 knots?
18 knots.
You know, it's a challenge. And we have actually had aircraft come into here that's gone on to Woodward or wherever because we didn't have any switch runway that they could land on. Pretty much every single engine aircraft we have in the field, Todd himself said that there's been times he's come back in that he would use it if it was available. Even some of the twin engines out here can land on them. Really the only ones that can't handle that are the jets. They would use it if they had to, but they're just too heavy to land on sod like that. Then we're going to have an aircraft judging contest, and when we're going to have airplane greeters greeting the airplane. And we stole some ideas from some other airplane shows and from the car show here in town. And this is the form where we have different categories, and each airplane, when it comes in, our airplane greeter will give it a number, fill out its information, post it in the windshield where you can walk by and you can judge the aircraft as what you think is the best single engine or the best Cessna or the best fabric airplane or the best tail dragger. Write in, turn in, everything has to be turned in by noon, and then we will have awards that we'll present at 2 o'clock for that. So it's kind of a neat thing because it allows the crowd and everybody to participate. And we have the rules up front. So if you're interested in that, we have I have samples of the form here.
Oh, you indicated that some of them are different speeds and they'll be coming in over quite a period of time. And you said they can leave whenever they wanted to. So there are going to be people leaving at the same time people will be arriving?
Yes. Yes, if I may be so blunt, our worst nightmare at this point is that we have a lot of planes flying in from neighboring airports to watch this event, while these airplanes are flying in, participating in the event, while we have a couple of jets deciding to come here that day, and we're not a controlled airfield. So that we have determined that the key job is who's ever handling Unicom that day, which is our only way of really communicating with those aircraft. And right now we've had James Stalling and Terry Turner volunteer to do that. But it's very important that as these airplanes identify themselves, as they're approaching the airport, that these two men be able to tell them where to get in line, where to land, where to turn, where to park, because it's otherwise we're going to have a lot of congestion. Now, there are basic rules for uncontrolled airfields that you follow. Normally, it's a left-hand traffic pattern, and you enter left downwind. That's all airport terminology, but there are set parameters for things like that. But it's you know, you plan for the worst and hope for the best. But I would like to say that these events are coming together really well, and it's because we've had tremendous support. And I'm going to tell you that the mayor and the city manager have been there every step of the way to support us. Bankett has given us tremendous help. The Alva Tourism Committee has supported. Norval's so excited about this, he can hardly stand it. Alex Mance and Sonia Williams have been attending the meetings, and they have provided tremendous support. The current airport management has been very positive and has reached out and is doing everything it can to make sure that this works off nice. And Plain Plastics, in particular April Mills at Plain Plastics, who's their marketing director, has really stepped forward and done a nice job of reaching out, making contacts, and pulling a lot of this together. We're still in need of some support. We have established donor levels, and I did bring some forms where anywhere from, I think it's $100 up to $500 size of banner, but it tells you what you can participate in. We even have specific events that you can sponsor to help cover costs. There are still some additional things that might come to fruition that I haven't talked about. It's early in the process, but we had to start establishing timelines for things, and some groups can't do that. One thing we're trying to get, I even had the city manager working on it because from there, but in Prairie, Oklahoma is the DC-3. And they go around the country and they recreate World War II paratrooper jumps. And the problem that we have right now is they're going to a big air show on the East Coast the week before, and they're not sure they can get back here, turn around, and get up to here to ours in that short amount of time. A lot of those guys can't be gone 2 weekends in a row. And that would be a really neat thing if we get that DC-3 flying into here and get them to recreate that. So we have some events like that that we're still working on. And we are in need, and Alex and Sonia are helping us with this. We need volunteers for certain events. We need a little help parking cars, directing traffic that morning, providing information to people who come in, being airplane greeters, things that and other, and moving equipment. It's a team effort. We've got a lot of people lined up. We still need some additional people. We appreciate any assistance that you have. I take any questions anybody might have.
On the fly-through thing, if there's not bad weather, are many of those people going to be spending the night, or are they flying on to the...
On the air race?
Yeah.
No, we're just a scheduled stop during the day. They display flying on through. But the Pratt manager told me that they were a first stop at one point, but they said they did such a good job that when they came back the second time, they scheduled them as a nighttime stop. And that nighttime stop, they really pulled out. They had a huge banquet for them. They brought in a big band, had a dance that night. It was a big to-do, and they really loved it. And so we're hoping, and the first stop, if you go, there's a website for this, I should say. It's just ARC Race Classic. You can look it up. And they've got us as first stop, and they will tell you all about us right there. And one of the things that they promote on their website, they say that the first stop is the important stop because generally every aircraft lands at that first one because they're working out bugs. Maybe their radio's not working right, maybe they have a mechanical problem, maybe they haven't calculated their fuel right, maybe they didn't go to the bathroom before they left, who knows. But generally everybody stops at the first one. So we're just as important as if we were the last stop that night, which we have Dale Loxton on standby for aircraft repairs. We're doing everything we can to cover every possible contingency. I'm sure there'll be something pop up that we haven't thought about. Yes, sir.
Do you have the shuttle service?
We are trying to do that. We need 2 shuttle services. One, we want to provide a shuttle service to bring people into town to shop or experience things like the museum, graceful arts, stores that are open, things of that nature. Go to Walmart if they need to pick up supplies, or to hotels. And then we need a shuttle service on the airfield, particularly for the elderly, so they can go between the terminal, the Plain Plastics, the industrial building, and the far north end. Because that's, our runway is 6,000 feet long, so I can give you an idea. So some people can't walk that mile, but with the verbal commitments that April has been collecting, early on, she's already got like 200 people that said that they're planning on flying in. That's going to be a lot of airplanes parked, a lot of things to look at. Anything else?
Paul, thank you.
No problem.